Hey there, blade fans. Welcome back. Glad you joined me today for an overview and review of a brand new button lock from none other than Sencut, a WE knife owned company along with Civivi. This is their lower of three tiers, lowest of three tiers, and you wouldn't know it. It's kind of striking in that area previously occupied by Civivi, and many of these coming in at the $40, $50 mark are excellent knives. And of course, button locks are all the rage these days. I think Civivi started that off with knives like the Cogent, followed by a number of others. This is a nicely finished knife. I happen to select the one in Jade Green G10. This comes from also none other than White Mountain, who is now beginning to carry Sencut. You can see, because of the translucent handles on this guy, that we have plenty of grid-like lightning. It's just, those liners are just carved out like crazy. It's a drop point with a high grind, very nice brushed satin finish. And the steel, you're going to barely be able to see it here. I don't know if I can even show it. It's right down in there, and they're using a faint etching. It is 9CR18 MOV, so a very solid, nicely sharpenable and pretty good edge retention stainless steel. Okay, so we're going to give it an overlook. We're going to dive into the specs, and then we're going to talk a bit more about it, compare it to some other button locks. So we have flathead screws holding the clip, deep carry clip on. The deep carry clip is transferable to the left side for lefties. It is not inletted into the scale it's riding on top, which is okay. You don't have much of a bump there when it comes to putting it in and out of the pocket, and you have relatively smooth but textured G10 scales. It's about, where do I want to be? Right about there. Okay. Not too many screws on this guy. We've got two that are holding these barrel spacers in place, and there you have in the back a pin for a lanyard. So you've got the two barrel spacers, pin for the lanyard, and your pivot that's basically holding everything together. Lock stick is a big question about a lot of button locks. A lot of them come through nice and end up being sticky. Very often that is resolved either through a little lubricant, and right out of the box this was kind of dry. So what I did was put a little bit of KPL heavy on that plunge lock, and now I'm still getting a little bit of stick, okay? Just a little bit of stick. And the second reason you can get stick is that the button itself, as it goes through that tunnel into through the scale and into the liner, can bind if the scale is not lying completely flat on top of the liner and on top of the pivot and so forth. So what Jared Neve had recommended in a video he put out quite some time ago when the Beglighter XL Special Edition from White Mountain came out, was some people were, it came through and it was working fine for them, and suddenly it started binding up, was to remove the screws here, remove the pivot screw, put a little blue Loctite on the tips, put them back in sequentially, tighten, 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 go around the circle, tighten, 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 until the action is about what you want. Leave it, let that Loctite dry, and then what you've done is torque down everything on this side evenly, so you don't have more pressure on these screws than, let's say, on the pivot. And that seemed to work for me on my Beglighter XL. It was starting to stick a little bit. And You know, I think this issue is going to keep cropping up. It's just the type of mechanism that needs to be extremely precise in order to work. Think of the tolerances that you've got going on in here. And, you know, it's a $40 knife. It's not a custom. But they've done a very nice job. Having used up all that time, almost 5 minutes at this point, let's get into some specs and then we'll talk some more. Overall, we have like a 7.9 inch knife. We have a 3.5 inch blade, just shy of that. Got a cutting edge of about 3.3 around there, because we do have a choil. It's sort of a finger choil and a sharpening choil. I don't think it has decided what it wants to be. You can get your finger in there sideways. Just be careful of the heel of that blade. Let's keep moving on to blade stock in millimeters. Fairly thin. Let's see if we can get a good bite on that. I'm getting 2.8. And if we switch to inches, 0.10. Handle's fairly thin, 0.51 inches. And we should have quite a light knife here because of all the weight relieving. Okay, 3.88 ounces. Pretty light. I'd say it's coming in very close to an ounce an inch for the blade length. Jimping is actually quite effective. I get a lot of grip on that. Nicely done. Short little run, under an inch, but it works. And there's your swedges you can see on the top there. Handle's quite neutral, one finger groove, and then just basically a very shallow swale for 3 fingers. So I think it'll work in either position quite nicely. I can get all my fingers on there on my medium large hand with about a ½ inch or so left over. So it's a comfortable sized handle. As far as the lock stick goes, that is going to vary from copy to copy many times. So if I say this has a little bit of lock stick now and had more before I oiled it, I'm not panning the knife. I think everything also breaks in over time, and again, there are ways to resolve it, but it's just going to be that elephant in the room for just about every button lock, unless you're talking lots of money. Now here is a Civivi, the big brother company to Sencut. Oh, and did I mention, oh my God, I didn't even mention the name of that knife, did I? It's got an odd name. They have chosen the name Sachse. And is it sexy or is it Sachse? It's Sachse, Texas. It's a town in Texas. Now the fixed blade that came out was the Waxahachie, which is also another town in Texas. So don't know where they're going with their naming, but there you can look it up. A little bit there about Sachse, Texas. And it's spelled strangely and pronounced more simply, Sachse. As far as I can tell, Wikipedia, that's what Wikipedia is telling me. But let's not get off track here. This is the Cogent, and this is a black finished with the partial serrations. This came out about a year ago, maybe. Really nice knife. Handle actually feels a teeny bit smaller than the Sachse. Just a bit, maybe, you know, like a 1/4 inch, something like that. Action on this one, on the button lock, quite nice. Teeny bit of the feeling of stick at the beginning, but it isn't holding up anything. You know, that plunge goes right in there. And for size comparison, it is right spot on about the same size. Moving to Kaiser, here is a special edition from White Mountain Knives of the Begleiter 2, and it is a button lock. And there is that typical kind of a clip that Kaiser put on this otherwise straight back knife, utility sort of blade. This one's from 154 cm. I believe the Cogent is from 14C 28N. And again, I'm pretty sure it is. Yep, it's there on the flipper tab. And I got to get it out of the camera in order to see it. Oh boy, is that tiny. Yeah, it's 14C. Good Lord, are they making it small? I think people asked for no branding and they got it. Or very light branding. So there's the 3 of them that I have for comparison that are button locks. 2 from the Wee Knife Company, Civivi and Sencut, and 1 from Kaiser. All about the same size, pretty much. Kind of falling in that same competitive realm. The thing I like about this is the long run on the Kaiser Begleiter of jimping, that file-like close together sort of jimping, and very nice smooth button lock on this one with 0 stick. And I'm not promoting it over the others. It's just I think this was coming in around 75, 80 bucks at White Mountain. You may still be able to get them. This is a combo of carbon fiber and G10 with a lanyard hole and deep carry clip. Nicely done. Okay, let's get back to the Sachse. I'm going to chuckle to myself every time I say the name. It's a Sachse knife. Maybe they intended that. I don't know. And you folks down in Texas, we're not making fun of your town. We got some strange names of towns in the Northeast, so there you go. Nice bead blasted clip, stainless, plenty of tension, smooth in and out of the pocket, as far as I can tell. Nice, almost spear point, drop point blade. And if we didn't mention it, we've got a nice jimping on the flipper tab. Grabs your skin right away. And if you want the thumb studs, you've got double thumb studs. Can you get fancy and do middle finger flicks? Certainly you can, very easily. And no front flipper on it, but that would give us 3 ways if it did have one. And, I'm kind of glad it isn't a front flipper personally. These come in a few different colors. I will send you the link out to White Mountain and you can check them out for yourself. How about next to the Griptilian? Griptilian's about a ½ inch longer and taller. And the Rat 1, my 2 standard fares for comparisons. A good deal longer, about maybe an 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, and about roughly about the same height, maybe a tiny bit taller. So in the pocket, 3.8 ounces, this is going to be nothing. So I think a nice EDC if you want a button lock. Hopefully you will not have any issues with the sticking. It's sticking a little bit now. It seems like the harder you open it, of course, the more deeply that plunge lock engages. But I think it's going to work in. You can decide for yourself, and you may have a Cogent or other button lock that you have that either has that issue or not. At any rate, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it was useful for you, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Be back with you soon.